Welcome, everybody, to Doc and Queenie Bible Trivia. Good evening, Queenie.
Good evening, Doc. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood for anybody who loves to be HOT. But that's okay. It's summertime in Kansas City, and it is definitely every bit of that. What do you think?
You know, it's only 95 and it feels like 109. So they
Oh, I'm
say.
sorry. I thought it was hot. Okay. Yeah, that's not
I
so
saw
bad.
in the weather the other night, they were like, yeah. The weather the other night was saying humidity was 60%. And I'm like, that's pretty high.
Yeah. And
So,
across the country, across the world, you just never know what you're going to get. So this is our time right now, apparently. And I looked into the future, and the next 10 days look similar.
yes, this is weather we usually have mid-July.
Yeah,
So,
this
and a
is
lot of times we
unusual to
lose
say
our
the
lawn.
least. And just
Yeah.
kind of like when we were waiting for heat and we were freezing to death in April, May, and here we are going, what? Yeah, you
We went from
never know.
fall to summer
You
to
never
midsummer.
know. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is just seriously amazing. All right. I
So
am. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so I think we're going to be in Genesis.
Genesis. Yes, we are actually. And we can continue where we left off last time if you'd like. And we can start with Genesis chapter 33.
Genesis chapter 33 sounds good to me.
All
Does
right.
it sound good to you?
Let's get her done.
All right.
For those of you joining us live, welcome. And for those of you on the replay, thank you so much for participating. We are going to be in Genesis chapter 33. And here we go with Bible trivia. Who came to Jacob with 400 men? Saul, the king of Syria, Laban, or Esau? Who came to Jacob with 400 men? Saul, the king of Syria, Laban, or Esau?
Genesis 33, verse 1. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children. I'm probably going to answer the next question. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the two family servants or female servants.
Here you go. What did Jacob do with his children? Hid them in a cave, hid them in the brush, divided them among his wives and maids, sent them ahead. What did Jacob do with his children? Hid them in a cave, hid them in the brush, divided them among his wives and maids, sent them ahead.
Genesis 33, verse 1. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the two female servants.
How many times did Jacob bow before his brother? 2, 3, 6, or 7? How many times did Jacob bow before his brother? 2, 3, 6, or 7?
Genesis 33, verse 3. He himself went on before them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother.
What did Esau do to Jacob? Killed him, hit him, kissed him, took him captive. What did Esau do to Jacob? Killed him, hit him, kissed him, took him captive.
Genesis 33, verse 4. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept.
When the brothers saw each other after so long, they fought, didn't recognize each other, wept, were jealous of one another. When the brothers saw each other after so long, they fought, didn't recognize each other, wept, or were jealous of one another?
Genesis 33, verse 4. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept.
When Esau did not want to take the present Jacob offered, Jacob was insulted, insisted he take it, was wroth, kept the flocks. When Esau did not want to take the present Jacob offered, Jacob was insulted, insisted he take it, was wroth, or kept the flocks.
Genesis 33, verse 9. But Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself.
Why did Jacob say he did not want to travel with Esau? He didn't trust him. He was afraid of him. Because of the young children and flock, he wanted to go another way. Why did Jacob say he did not want to travel with Esau? He didn't trust him. He was afraid of him. Because of the young children and flock, he wanted to go another way. Good evening,
Hello,
Miss
Debbie.
Debbie. Yeah, good to see you.
I just looked up. Hello.
I haven't seen her in about 10 minutes, so I hope you've been well, Debbie. You don't even have to tell Debbie what chapter we're in. She already knows the answer to everything.
She probably sees you more than I see you.
Probably so.
Maybe I should just call. Maybe I should just go instant message her and see what's up with you.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
I like her little emoji. Genesis 33, verse 13. But Jacob said to him, my Lord knows that the children are frail and that the nursing flocks and herds are a care to me. They are driven hard, for one day all the flocks will die.
What did Esau do? Got insulted, was wroth, traveled on, insisted Joseph go with him. What did Esau do? Got insulted, was wroth, traveled on, insisted Joseph go with him.
Is that verse
16?
16, okay. Genesis 33, verse 16. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. If that's how you pronounce it. I don't know.
Well, I'm just sure that's correct, Dr. Laura.
I'm sure it is.
What did Jacob buy? Doves, camels, servants, land. What did Jacob buy? Doves, camels, servants, land.
Genesis 33, verse 19. And from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he bought for 100 pieces of money the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent.
How much did he pay? 100 pieces of money, 30 pieces of silver, 20 shekels, 200 pence. How much did he pay? 100 pieces of money, 30 pieces of silver, 20 shekels, 200 pence.
Genesis 33, verse 19. And from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he bought for 100 pieces of money the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent.
That is the end of Genesis chapter 33, Doc.
Wow, we just breezed through that one, Queenie.
I'm telling you.
Well, let's see what it sounds like in the CEV DCI, or the Contemporary English Version. Don't know what DCI is still. Doesn't mean too lazy to look it up. So Jacob meets Esau. Later that day, Jacob met Esau coming with his 400 men. So Jacob told his children to walk with their mothers. The two servant women, Zilpah and Bilhah, together with their children, went first, followed by Leah and her children, then by Rachel and Joseph. Jacob himself walked in front of them, bowing to the ground 7 times as he came near his brother. But Esau ran toward Jacob and hugged and kissed him. Then the 2 brothers started crying. When Esau noticed the women and the children, he asked, "Whose children are these?" Jacob answered, "These are the children the Lord has been kind enough to give me, your servant." Then the 2 servant women and their children came and bowed down to Esau. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Finally, Joseph and Rachel also came and bowed down. Esau asked Jacob, "Why did you send those herds I met along the road?" "Master," Jacob answered, "I sent them so you would be friendly to me." "But brother, I already have plenty," Esau replied. "Keep them for yourself." "No," Jacob said, "please accept them as a sign of your friendship for me. When you welcomed me and I saw your face, it was like seeing the face of God. Please accept these as gifts I brought to you. God has been good to me, and I have everything I need." Jacob kept insisting until Esau agreed. "Let's get ready to travel," Esau said. "I'll go along with you." But Jacob answered, "Master, you know traveling is hard on children, and I have to look after the sheep and goats that are nursing their young. If my animals travel too much in one day, they will all die. Why don't you go on ahead and let me travel along slowly with the children, the herds, and the flocks? We can meet again in the country of Edom." Esau replied, "Let me leave some of my men with you." "You don't have to do that," Jacob answered. "I am happy simply knowing that you are friendly to me." So Esau left for Edom, but Jacob went to Succoth, where he built a house for himself and set up shelters for his animals. That's why the place is called Succoth, whatever that means. After leaving northern Syria, Jacob arrived safely at Shechem in Canaan and set up camp outside the city. The land where he camped was owned by the descendants of Hamor, the father of Shechem. So Jacob paid them 100 pieces of silver for the property. Then he set up his tents and built an altar here to honor the God of Israel.
The contemporary English version and then the DCI part simply stands for interconfessional version. So it doesn't even translate correctly because I looked that up while you were doing that. So it's the interconfessional. So it doesn't even it doesn't even make the right letters.
But it doesn't even kind of make sense in interconfessional. So it's a confessional. Is it a Catholic Bible version?
I don't think so. When I look it up on the translation pieces on mine, Contemporary English Version, Interconfessional Edition, and that's all it says. So the DCI part doesn't even have a translation.
Huh.
So you've got King James, Revised Standard, English Standard, all of those things, Message Version, et cetera, et cetera. And then when it says CEV DCI, that's all it says is Contemporary English Version, Interconfessional Edition.
All right.
I don't know. As soon as you said that, I thought we got to figure out what that is, but it doesn't translate the way that letters are.
I thought you were going to look up Succoth.
Yeah. You're in charge of that, my friend.
SUCC. Yeah.
Is that a location or a person?
It's a location.
Okay.
It's just an odd. Huh. It's one of the stations during the Israelite exodus from Egypt. They give a whole bunch of different names. It's also tied to the Jewish festival of Sukkot.
Okay.
So, which I have no idea because, we obviously, it's in our history as believers, but we don't know.
Everything is always a mystery for us, that's for sure. All right, my friends, we are now on Genesis chapter 34, and we are ready to roll. Welcome, Debbie, and anyone else who would be joining us live or certainly on the replay. What was the name of Jacob's daughter? Leah, Rachel, Rebecca, or Dinah? What was the name of Jacob's daughter? Leah, Rachel, Rebecca, or Dinah?
Genesis 34, verse 1. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land.
Uh-oh. Who was her mother? Leah, Rachel, Rebecca, or Dinah? Who was her mother? Leah, Rachel, Rebecca, or Dinah?
Genesis 34, verse 1. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land.
Who lay with Jacob's daughter? Shechem, Hamor, Simeon, or Levi? Who lay with Jacob's daughter? Shechem, Hamor, Simeon, or Levi?
Genesis 34, verse 2. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivitite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her and lay with her and humiliated her.
What was his father's name? Shechem, Hamor, Simeon, or Levi? What was his father's name? Shechem, Hamor, Simeon, Levi?
Genesis 34, verse 2. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivitite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her and lay with her and humiliated her.
What were the names of Dinah's brothers? Aaron and Levi, Levi and Simeon, Simeon and Hamor, Hamor and Aaron. What were the names of Dinah's brothers? Aaron and Levi, Levi and Simeon, Simeon and Hamor, Hamor and Aaron.
I am not seeing any names, but that doesn't mean
It's verse 25.
I'm not far enough. They just did a big jump again. I only made it to 15. All right. Genesis 34, verse 25. And the third day, when they were sore, two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers.
What did Hamor ask of
because
Jacob?
I know there's going to be another question.
Yeah. And you'll know that'll be the answer. What did Hamor ask of Jacob and his sons? His sons should not be punished, that their sons and daughters may marry, Jacob's family move across the river, the Jews pay taxes to the Hivites. What did Hamor ask of Jacob and his sons? His sons not be punished, that their sons and daughters may marry, Jacob's family move across the river, the Jews pay taxes to the Hivites.
Genesis 34, verse 15. Only on this condition we will agree with you that you will become as we are by every male among you being circumcised. Did I answer that right?
This one is actually verse 8 and 9.
Okay. Verse 8, but Hamor spoke with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us and take our daughters for yourselves.
Under what condition did Jacob's sons say they would agree to it? If he gave them money, if he gave them land, if the males were all circumcised, if the women wore veils over their faces. Under what condition did Jacob's sons say they would agree to it? If he gave them money, if he gave them land, if the males were all circumcised, if the women wore veils over their faces.
Genesis 34, verse 15. Only on this condition will we agree with you, that you will become as we are by every male among you being circumcised.
What did Jacob's sons do when the men were sore? Slew all the men with a sword, called for a physician, prayed for them, begged their sister to come home. What did Jacob's sons do when the men were sore? Slew all the men with a sword, called for a physician, prayed for them, begged their sister to come home.
Genesis 34, verse 25. On the third day, when they were sore, two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and came against the city while it felt secure and killed all the males.
What did they do with the Hivites' cattle, and women and children? Stoned them, burned them, deserted them, took them as spoil. What did they do with the Hivites' cattle and women and children? Stoned them, burned them, deserted them, took them as spoil.
I've got verse 29. Is there another?
No, 29. Good, yeah.
Okay. All right. Genesis 34, verse 29. All their wealth, all their little ones and their wives, all that was in the houses, they captured and plundered.
They told Jacob that they had done this because their sister had been tricked, murdered, treated as a harlot, brainwashed. They told Jacob they had done this because their sister had been tricked, murdered, treated as a harlot, brainwashed. $31.
Thank you. Genesis 34, verse 31. But they said, should he treat our sister like a prostitute?
And that is the end of chapter 34, huh?
Yep. We're just breezing through. All right. Genesis 34 and the CEV. I almost just lost it. Dinah, the daughter of Jacob and Leah, went to visit some of the women who lived nearby. She was seen by Hamar's son, Shechem, the leader of the Hivites, and he grabbed her and raped her. But Shechem was attracted to Dinah, so he told her how much he loved her. Shechem even asked his father to arrange for him to marry her. Meanwhile, Jacob heard what had happened, but his sons were out in the fields with the cattle, so he did not do anything at the time. Hamor arrived at Jacob's home just as Jacob's sons were coming in from work. When they learned that their sister had been raped, they became furiously angry because nothing is more disgraceful than rape, and it must be not be tolerated. Hamor said to Jacob and his sons, "My son Shechem really loves Dinah. Please let him marry her. Why don't you start letting your families marry into our families and ours marry into yours? You can share this land with us, move freely about until you find the property you want, then buy it and settle down here." Shechem added, "Do this favor for me and I'll give you whatever you want. Ask anything, no matter how expensive. I'll do anything. Just let me marry Dinah." Jacob's sons wanted to get even with Shechem and his father because of what had happened to their sister, so they tricked them by saying, "You're not circumcised. It would be a disgrace for us to let you marry Dinah now, but we will let you marry her if you and the other men in your tribe agree to be circumcised. Then your families can marry into ours and ours can marry into yours, and we can live together like one nation. But if you don't agree to be circumcised, we'll let Dinah and leave this place. We'll take Dinah and leave this place." Hamor and Shechem liked what was said. Shechem was the most respected person in his family, and he was so in love with Dinah that he hurried off to get everything done. The two men met with the other leaders of their city and told them, "These people really are friendly. Why not let them move freely about until they find the property they want? There's enough land here for them and for us. Then our families can marry into theirs and theirs can marry into ours. We have to do only one thing before we will agree to stay here and become one nation with us. Our men will have to be circumcised just like theirs. Just think, we'll get their property as well as their flocks and herds. All we have to do is to agree, and they will live here with us." Every grown man followed this advice and got circumcised. 3 days later, the men who had been circumcised were still weak from pain. So Simeon and Levi, two of Dinah's brothers, attacked with their swords and killed every man in town, including Hamor and Shechem. Then they took Dinah and left. I keep wanting to call her Diana. Jacob's other sons came and took everything they wanted. All this was done because of the horrible thing that had happened to their sister. They took sheep, goats, donkeys, and everything else that was in the town or the countryside. After taking everything of value from the houses, they dragged away the wives and children of their victims. Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "Look what you've done. Now I'm in real trouble with the Canaanites and the Perizzites who live around here. There aren't many of us, and if they attack, they'll kill everyone in my household." They answered, "Was it right to let our sister be treated that way?"
I have an answer for that, but we'll keep it to the scripture.
Yes.
All right, my friends, let's go on to Genesis chapter 35. Debbie Miller, I don't think you ever miss any of these answers. You're amazing. Where did God tell Jacob to arise and go? Sodom, Eden, Bethel, Israel. Where did God tell Jacob to arise and go? Sodom, Eden, Bethel, Israel.
Genesis 35, verse 1. God said to Jacob, "Arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there."
What did God tell Jacob to do there? Make war, build a temple, build an altar, preach to the heathen. What did God tell Jacob to do there? Make war, build a temple, build an altar, preach to the heathen.
Genesis 35, verse 1. God said to Jacob, "Arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there. Make an altar there to God, to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau."
What did Jacob tell his household to put away from them? Food, evil thoughts, concubines, strange gods. What did Jacob tell his household to put away from them? Food, evil thoughts, concubines, strange gods.
Genesis 35, verse 2. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you and purify yourselves and change your garments." I have to interrupt. I find it interesting that they have false gods and all of that. Like, hello? Yeah.
Very, very odd. What did Jacob tell his house they should do before they went to the place God told him? Sing a hymn, change their garments, offer sacrifices, be circumcised. What did Jacob tell his house they should do before they went to the place God told him? Sing a hymn, change their garments, offer sacrifices, be circumcised.
Genesis 35, verse 2. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you, and purify yourselves, and change your garments."
What did Jacob do with the strange gods and earrings? Melted them, hid them under the oak, sold them, hid them in his tent. What did Jacob do with the strange gods and earrings? Melted them, hid them under the oak, sold them, hid them in his tent.
Genesis 35, verse 4. So they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods that they had and the rings that were in their ears. Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree that was near Shechem.
What was the new name God gave Jacob? Benjamin, Israel, Jack, or Luz? What was the new name God gave Jacob? Benjamin, Israel, Jack, or Luz?
Genesis 35, verse 10. And God said to him, "Your name is Jacob no longer. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name." So he called his name Israel.
What did God tell Jacob would come from his loins? the Messiah, kings, princes, or prophets? What did God tell Jacob would come from his loins? The Messiah, kings, princes, prophets.
Genesis 35, verse 11. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from your own body.
What kind of offering did Jacob give God? A wave offering, a drink offering, a blood offering, or gold? What kind of offering did Jacob give God? A wave offering, a drink offering, a blood offering, or gold?
Genesis 35, verse 14. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone. He poured out a drink offering on it and poured oil on it.
What did Jacob name the son that Rachel gave birth to before she died? Reuben, Levi, Benjamin, Benani. What did Jacob name the son that Rachel gave birth to before she died? Reuben, Levi, Benjamin, Benani.
Genesis 35, verse 18. And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Benani. But her father called him Benjamin. But his father called him.
Yes, Benjamin it is. What was the name of Jacob's firstborn son? Reuben, Levi, Benjamin, Benani. What was the name of Jacob's firstborn son? Reuben, Levi, Benjamin, or Benani?
Now the sons, Genesis 35, verse 22. Now the sons of Jacob were 23. Now the sons of Jacob were 12, the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn.
Reuben it is, and that takes us through chapter 35, dog.
I see a whole bunch of names, Queenie.
All
right. We will see. We will try our best.
Yeah.
So Genesis 35. I'm sorry?
I said it's called skimming.
Yes. Genesis 35 in the CEV DCI. Jacob returns to Bethel. God told Jacob, return to Bethel where I appeared to you when you were running from your brother Esau. Make your home there and build an altar for me. Jacob said to his family and to everyone else who was traveling with him, get rid of your foreign gods, then make yourselves acceptable to worship God and put on clean clothes. Afterwards, we'll go to Bethel. I will build an altar there for God who answered my prayers when I was in trouble and who has always been at my side. So everyone gave Jacob their idols and their earrings, and he buried them under the oak tree near Shechem. While Jacob and his family were traveling through Canaan, God terrified the people in the town so much that no one dared bother them. Finally, they reached Bethel, also known as Luz. Jacob built an altar there and called it God of Bethel, because that was the place where God had appeared to him when he was running from Esau. While they were there, Rebekah's personal servant Deborah died. They buried her under an oak tree and called it Weeping Oak. After Jacob came back to the land of Canaan, God appeared to him again, and this time he gave Jacob a new name and blessed him by saying, I am God all-powerful, and from now on your name will be Israel instead of Jacob. You will have many children. Your descendants will become nations, and some of the men in your family will even be kings. I will give you the land that I promised Abraham and Isaac, and it will belong to your family forever. After God had gone, Jacob set up a large rock so that he would remember what had happened there. Then he poured wine and olive oil on the rock to show that it was dedicated to God, and he named the place Bethel. Jacob and his family had left Bethel and were still a long way from Ephraim when the time came for Rachel's baby to be born. She was having a rough time, but the woman who was helping her said, Don't worry, it's a boy. Rachel was at the point of death, and right before dying, she said, "I'll name him Benoni," but Jacob called him Benjamin. Rachel was buried beside the road to Ephrath, which is also called Bethlehem. Jacob set up a tombstone over her grave, and it is still there. Jacob, also known as Israel, traveled to the south of Eder Tower, where he set up camp. During their time there, Jacob's oldest son Reuben slept with Bilhah, who was one of Jacob's other wives, and Jacob found out about it. Jacob had 12 sons while living in northern Syria. His firstborn Reuben was the son of Leah, who later gave birth to Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Leah's servant Zilpah had 2 sons, Gad and Asher. Jacob and his wife Rachel had Joseph and Benjamin. Rachel's servant woman Bilhah had 2 more sons, Dan and Naphtali. Jacob went to his father Isaac at Hebron, also called Mamre or Kirath Rabbah, where Isaac's father Abraham had lived as a foreigner. Isaac died at the ripe old age of 180. Then his sons Esau and Jacob buried him.
180. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
27 has been hard enough. Can you imagine 180?
Yes, 27 has been rough.
Wow, Debbie networked today with a man in Israel. That's incredibly
That's cool.
Yeah, that is incredibly cool. Not that it surprises me. That lady puts more miles on her bus than anybody I've ever known. Oh, my goodness, girlfriend. Man in Israel. Wow. All right, my friends, thank you for joining us live for Doc and Queenie Bible Trivia. We are now started for Genesis chapter 36. This chapter is a listing of the generations of...
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I know. Jacob, Esau, Abraham, or Ezra. This chapter is a listing of the generations of... Something tells me you're going to skip this reading. Jacob, Esau, Abraham, or Ezra.
Genesis 36, verse 1. These are the generations of Esau, that is, Edom.
He took his wives of the daughters of Israel, Egypt, Capernaum, or Canaan. He took his wives of the daughters of Israel, Egypt, Capernaum, or Canaan.
Genesis 36, verse 2. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites.
Why did he move away from his brother? He feared him. His brother ordered him to move. They had so much riches the land could not bear them. The people of that place forced him out. Why did he move away from his brother? He feared him. His brother ordered him to move. They had so much riches the land could not bear them, or the people of that place forced him out.
Genesis 36, verse 7. For their possessions were too great for them to dwell together.
Many of his descendants were called Jacob, dukes, lords, or prophets. Many of his descendants were called Jacob, dukes, lords, or prophets.
All right, you're going to have to give me a verse because it's not real clear.
43.
Aha. I love how they jump, but that's fine because there's a whole bunch of names in between there. And it's hilarious how this version is so different. Genesis 36, verse 43. Migdal and Aram, these are the chiefs of Edom.
Wow, and this is called dukes, okay. He is called father of many nations, the Edomites, princes, or valor. He is called father of many nations, the Edomites, princes, valor.
Genesis 36, verse 9. Esau, the father of the Edomites.
That is already the end of the chapter.
Wow.
I know. That was like express mode.
Okay, I don't think it's too bad as far as pronunciation. I'm going to give it a try.
Okay.
And I will read it with my usual disclaimer. Exactly.
Yeah.
Genesis 36 in the CEV DCI version. Esau's family. Esau, also known as Edom, had many descendants. He married 3 Canaanite women. The first was Adah, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite. The second was Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, and the granddaughter of Zibeon, the Hittite. The third was Basemath, who was Ishmael's daughter and Naboth's sister. Esau and his 3 wives had 5 sons while in Canaan. Adah's son was Eliphaz. Basemath's son was Reuel. I'm trying. Oholibamah's 3 sons were Jehush, Jalam, and Korah. That sounds pretty good. That sounded like I knew what I was reading.
Almost.
Esau took his children and wives, his relatives and servants, his animals and his possessions he had acquired while in Canaan, and moved far from Jacob. He did this because the land was too crowded and could not support him and his brother with their flocks and herds. That's why Esau made his home in the hill country of Seir. Esau lived in the hill country of Seir and was the ancestor of Edomites. Esau had 3 wives. It's funny, we're repeating it again. Adah, Basemath, and Oholibamah. Here's a list of his descendants. Oh, thank you very much. Esau and Adah had a son named Eliphaz, whose sons were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah was the other wife of Esau's son Eliphaz, and she had a son named Amalek. Esau and Basemath had a son named Reuel, whose sons were Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. Esau and Oholibamah had 3 sons, Jehush, Jalam, and Korah. Esau and Adah's oldest son was Eliphaz, and the clans that descended from him were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, and Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. These and Esau's other descendants lived in the land of Edom. The clans that descended from Esau and Basemath's son Reuel were Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. The clans that descended from Esau and Oholibamah.
Oh my goodness.
There's like 12 syllables to her name. The daughter of Nah were Jehush, Jalam, and Korah. All of these clans descended from Esau, who was known as Edom. Seir was from the Hittite tribe that had lived in Edom before the time of Esau. The clans that had descended from him were Lotan, Shabal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. There's Dishan and Dishan. Lotan's sons were Hori and Heman. His sister was Timnah. Shabal's sons were Alavan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. Zibeon's sons were Ahiah and Anai. The same Anai was found an oasis in the desert while taking the donkeys of his father out to pasture. Anah's children were Dishan and Oholibamah. Dishan's sons were Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Shiran. Hazer's sons were Bilhan, Zivan, and Akan. Dishan's sons were Uz and Aran. The clans of the Hittites were Lotan, Shabal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan, and they lived in the land of Seir. Before there were kings in Israel, the following kings ruled Edom one after another. This is torturous.
Oh my goodness.
Bala, son of Beor from Dembaha.
Oh.
Jabab from Zerah from Basra. Hadad, son of Bedad from Avith. We should have Debbie Miller on here to read this.
There you go.
She probably could. Bedad defeated the Midianites in Moab. Shemlah from Mesrakah. Shaul from the city of Rehoboth on the Euphrates River. Balahan, son of Akbar. Hadar from the city of Pau. His wife Mehetabel was the daughter of Matred, the granddaughter of Meshahaba. The clans were almost there. I can see the end. The clans that descended from Esau took their names from their families and the places where they lived. They are of Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, Ohalama, Ba, Allah, Penan, Kenaz, Teman, Mibzar, Midiel, and Aram. These clans descended from Esau, who was known as Edom, the father of the Edomites. They took their names from the places where they settled.
Well,
that's a lot of people.
That's what I was going to say. Hats off to you, Doc, because that was not a good gift for me. Yeah, Debbie Miller did laughter. So I think that he was probably glad you were reading it and not her. Oh my gosh. All right. Oh my god. Honestly, hats off to you. That was lovely. Oh my gosh.
I think my tongue's going to fall out.
Yeah, probably. We're now headed to generous. We're now headed to Genesis 37. And I did the easy part, Genesis, but I called it generous. So I guess we're all kinds of trouble tonight. And the good news is we are.
You're just trying to fit in.
I am. Exactly. We don't have to read many more names. Let's hope. We've got Joseph here for the first one. How old was Joseph when he brought the report to his father? 10, 17, 22, or 28? How old was Joseph when he brought the report to his father? 10, 17, 22, or 28?
Genesis 37, verse 2. Joseph being 17 years old. There's a whole bunch of other information there that I think there's going to be more questions on.
Oh, don't you figure? Which son did Israel love most? Joseph, Reuben, Levi, Eli. Which son did Israel love most? Joseph, Reuben, Levi, Eli.
Genesis 37, verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons.
What did Israel make for his favorite son? A house, a shrine, a feast, a coat of many colors. What did Israel make for his favorite son? A house, a shrine, a feast, a coat of many colors.
Genesis 37, verse 3 again. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a robe of many colors.
What did Joseph tell his brothers he dreamed about? Sheaves, horses, birds, waters. What did Joseph tell his brothers he dreamed about? Sheaves, horses, birds, or waters?
Genesis 37, verse 7. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright.
He also dreamed about, roes and hearts, the sun, moon, and stars, the foul fish and creeping things, a new sports car. He also dreamed about roes and hearts, the sun, moon, and stars, the foul fish and creeping things, or a new sports car.
It's a funny answer. Genesis 37, verse 9. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me.
When Joseph came to his brothers in the field, what did they conspire to do? Steal sheep, rob merchants, slay him, steal camel. When Joseph came to his brothers in the field, what did they conspire to do? Steal sheep, rob merchants, slay him, steal camel.
Genesis 37, verse 18. They saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him.
Debbie decided the answer before was race car.
Are those Corvettes or Camaros?
Yeah,
I need to know that.
probably. Yeah. As long as they're sports cars, she's happy. How much did the brothers sell Joseph? 30 pieces of silver, 20 pieces of silver, 30 pieces of gold, 20 pieces of gold. For how much did the brothers sell Joseph? 30 pieces of silver, 20 pieces of silver, 30 pieces of gold, 20 pieces of gold.
Genesis 37, verse 28. Then the Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver.
To whom did they sell him? The Philistines, the Canaanites, the Ishmaelites, the Levites. To whom did they sell him? The Philistines, the Canaanites, the Ishmaelites, or the Levites?
Ooh, you got cut off there, Queenie. Genesis 37, verse 28. Then the Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver.
What did Joseph's brother put on his coat? A signet, a patch, poison, or goat's blood? What did Joseph's brothers put on his coat? A signet, a patch, poison, goat's blood.
Genesis 37, verse 31. Then they took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood.
Who did they give Joseph's coat to? His father, his mother, the merchants, or Potiphar? Who did they give Joseph's coat to? His father, his mother, the merchants, or Potiphar?
Genesis 37, verse. I just had 32. It and I just lost it. 32. And they sent the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, "This we have found. Please identify whether it's your son's robe or not."
That's the end of 37, Doc.
Wow. That was even faster than the one before.
Yeah, you were still recovering from those names.
Yes. All right. Oh, dear. I'm having a little issue with my Bible. There we go. Genesis. Come on. 37. Hang on. I just lost it. Okay, there we go. Jacob lived in the land of Canaan where his father Isaac had lived, and this is the story of his family. When Jacob's son Joseph was 17 years old, he took care of the sheep with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. But he was always telling his father all sorts of bad things about his brothers. Jacob loved Joseph more than he did any of his other sons because Joseph was born when Jacob was very old. Jacob had even given Joseph a fancy coat, which showed that Joseph was his favorite son, and so Joseph's brothers hated him and would not be friendly to him. One day Joseph told his brothers what he had dreamed, and they hated him even more. Joseph said, "Let me tell you about my dream. We were out in the field tying up bundles of wheat. Suddenly my bundle stood up, and your bundles gathered around and bowed down to it." His brothers asked, "Do you really think you are going to be king and rule over us?" Now they hated Joseph more than ever because of what he said about his dream. Joseph later had another dream, and he told his brothers, "Listen to what else I dreamed. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to me." When he told his father about his dream, his father became angry and said, "What's that supposed to mean? Are your mother and I and your brothers all going to come and bow down to you?" Joseph's brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept wondering about the dream. One day, when Joseph's brothers had taken the sheep to a pasture, Near Shechem, his father Jacob said to him, I want you to go to your brothers. They are with the sheep near Shechem. Yes, sir, Joseph answered. His father said, Go and find out how your brothers and the sheep are doing. Then come back and let me know. So he sent him from Hebron Valley. Joseph was near Shechem and wandering through the fields when a man asked, What are you looking for? Joseph answered, I'm looking for my brothers who are watching the sheep. Can you tell me where they are? They're not here anymore, the man replied. I overheard them saying they were going to Dothan. Joseph left and found his brothers in Dothan. But before he got there, they saw him coming and made plans to kill him. They said to one another, Look, here comes the hero of those dreams. Let's kill him and throw him into a pit and say that a wild animal ate him. Then we'll see what happens to those dreams. Reuben heard this and tried to protect Joseph from them. Let's not kill him, he said. Don't murder him or even harm him. Just throw him into a well out here in the desert. Reuben planned to rescue Joseph later and take him back to his father. When Joseph came to his brothers, they pulled off his fancy coat and threw him into a dry well. As Joseph's brothers sat down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with all kinds of spices that they were taking to Egypt. So Judah said, What will we gain if we kill our brother and hide his body? Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not harm him. After all, he is our brother. And the others agreed. When the Midianite merchants came by, Joseph's brothers took him out of the well, and for 20 pieces of silver, they sold him to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the well and did not find Joseph there, he tore his clothes in sorrow. Then he went back to his brothers and said, The boy is gone. What am I going to do? Joseph's brothers killed a goat and dipped Joseph's fancy coat in its blood. After this, they took the coat to their father and said, We found this. Look at it carefully and see if it belongs to your son. Jacob knew it was Joseph's coat and said, It's my son's coat. Joseph has been torn to pieces and eaten by some wild animal. Jacob mourned for Joseph a long time, and to show his sorrow, he tore his clothes and wore sackcloth. All of Jacob's children came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. No, he said, I will go to my grave mourning for my son. So Jacob kept on grieving. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold Joseph in Egypt to a man named Potiphar, who was the king's official in charge of the palace guard. Isn't it always
that was not
interesting how God works?
Yes, it is. And that was not a rough chapter of names finally.
No. Thank you, God.
Yeah. Yeah, that was not bad at all, as a matter of fact. The rites of passage and all the traditions and things like that from back then, you really do look back on that and just shake your head. You know, somebody. Well,
and when we're reading, like, my question, and I haven't really studied it, and I don't know if Debbie Miller would know this or if she could write a quick answer. Jacob, when he was Jacob, offered a drink offering. Why a drink offering and not a sacrificing an animal? You know, and the drink offering, he did the drink offering and poured oil over it. You know, of course, we probably have to study all the rules and regulations and, you know, protocols or whatever you want to call it with sacrifice and all of that. It's just, like you said, it's incredible, all of the different things, in addition to pronouncing all of those names.
I think you did remarkably, amazingly awesome for those names this time, Doc. I mean, wow. Well, as you can see, we definitely are at the end of our hour for our Bible trivia. So, Doc, I guess it's time to take us home. These are the fastest hours in the world.
You know, they really are. And thank you, Queenie, for moderating and, you know, asking those questions. And thank you, Debbie Miller, and anyone else that has participated, whether right now or on our replay. We appreciate our faithful friends on purpose, and we appreciate everybody that's participated with Doc and Queenie Bible Trivia. You can find us every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Or if you want to check out Doc and Queenie Facebook Live, we are on Mondays at high noon. And as if you know us, you know, I always have to have Queenie do that because I'm an alto and she is not. So until next time, have a blessed and wonderful weekend. stay cool, and we will see you right back here on Bible Trivia next week at 7 p.m.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.